Hey, this is Gary Kay. We are here at Integrate 2019, and we are live streaming. We are coming to you live streaming a booth tour of the Extron booth here at Integrate in Melbourne, Australia. I'm here with Damien Hiscock. Damien, how are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you, Gary?
I'm doing well. Tell me what you do for Extron.
I'm look after everything that's not sales in Australia. So I'm look after all the technical side of things, so all the training, tech support, our repairs.
Then he's the perfect person to do this, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to start at the product that is the most popular product at the show floor so far here at Integrate 2019, the NAV. I call it NAV. They keep correcting me and saying NAV, but it's your AV over IP product line.
Pro AV over IP.
Pro AV over IP. Yeah. And obviously what you're doing here is converting AV over the network. And what's unique about your NAV or the NAV product line is that it is both 1 gig and 10 gig interoperable, so the system works together in the same system.
That's exactly right. The codec is efficient enough to work on both platforms. So if you do have a 10 gig local system and you want to stream out to something that's a 1 gig endpoint, we can just drop the data rate down below 1 gig and you can stream out to anything that's a 1 gig endpoint. So perfect for overflow sort of applications.
Yeah, and so this is Extron's first move into AV over IP. The market is still new for AV over IP, so you're certainly not late to the market, but you have a unique offering from the standpoint that also you have the ability to dial in the bandwidth. So if you get a 10 gig product and the IT department wants to only use max out at 8 gig or max out at 5 gig or even 3 gig, you can program it that way.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got very good control of the bandwidth. And that's an upper limit. So if you only have, like, someone gives you a 2 gig bandwidth limit and you cannot go above that, if you put in 2 gig, that's its upper cap. Doesn't mean it's going to be running at 2 gig. So the codec's still efficient. If it goes back to static content, we only send stuff that changes and we break it up into little blocks and compare the next frame and send it. So because we're not waiting for a full frame to come in, keeps latency down to sub-frame. So we're less than 16 milliseconds of latency.
Yeah, and what's cool about that and what's important about that is the data rate. And we're going to talk about that when we do. We're going to shoot individual videos on all the products here, but right now we're taking you through a live booth tour of the Extron booth. Here are the products, and they use what your branding is Pure 3 codec technology. This includes the transmitters, receivers, and the controller, right?
Absolutely. So Pure 3 is Extron's own proprietary codec. It's the second generation. So we had Pure 3 around a fair few years ago in our VN matrix. This has been reworked from the ground up to be 4K ready today. But the codec's that efficient, and some of the data rates they're seeing, that's going to be, you'll see that coming out in new 8K products and stuff in the future. So it's a very impressive codec, very easy to keep the data rates really, really low compared to quite a few of our competitors with that upper capping. So say never go above 500 meg, but it might be sitting at 5 or 10 meg if it's static content. And it also has some very good error concealment. So if you do happen to have some sort of network glitches or anything like that, unlike some other proprietary codecs that have an error and then the next frames are built up on that error and it sort of perpetuates through, our one will maintain the last known good part from a previous frame. So it'll tear it a little bit, but when you're talking 60 frames a second, it's like barely noticeable.
Right, it'd be not noticeable. And of course, with a system like this, you're going to need transmitters and receivers, encoders and decoder products, and a controller. But it all works with the Extron ecosystem from a control system standpoint. And so you're going to see some of these installs. Aren't you think you're going to see hybrid installs where you're putting in legacy equipment with some of the new digital switching equipment like the XTP systems all together?
Absolutely. At the moment, NAV is still standalone, so we can hang encoders off the output of an XTP, so you can have a local standard system in XTP world, and then feed, like if you want 2 overflows to go off campus wide or something in the uni, we can just feed it into 2 encoders and send them out as overflow. So it's completely flexible how you want to set it up, or you can do the whole system in NAV as replace the traditional matrix with an IP solution, just depending on it may be what's fit for purpose. It's not, XTP's not going anywhere. Right. This isn't going to be what's taking over and nobody's going to buy that anymore. It's what's right for your application. Some applications you might have it distributed, so NAV works better. Some of them may be just local in one room, so XTP or DTP even in a smaller cross points work better. So it's the next add-on to our family, just to keep another step as an option for people. It's not like this is what we're concentrating on now and the rest is going to disappear.
Speaking of rooms, let's go over here to the teamwork area. And one big area that's a big growth area of the market is sort of the whole idea of UCC-based and small room switching systems that are kind of all-in-one inclusive products. Teamwork's part of that. Talk about the teamwork strategy.
So teamwork allows us to do some really basic like huddle spaces. So it takes the front end of the control system, the user interface, away from traditional touch panels and stuff like that. So people just walk up now to a huddle space like this, and they just pull a cable out, plug it into their laptop and hit the show me button. And that, if the system's not on, the display will turn on, switch that input. We can have a switch between the two of us and just flick between two by literally pressing a button on the cable. And we've also then can expand it over to our ShareLink. So when we go into our ShareLink Pro, that allows us to bring in wireless presentation, so we can have people's devices, iPads, or even laptops being presented wirelessly, and it's still got local input, so it can be integrated in as another add-on to any of our traditional systems with matrix switches.
And in fact, you can actually put ShareLink, as you were saying, on anything. So you can add ShareLink at any point in the system. In fact, my classroom at the University of North Carolina uses ShareLink. In fact, we have ShareLink in all the classrooms. So if you want to do wireless, you just pop on over to the ShareLink input on the switch. Let's talk about, speaking of UCC, let's talk about your UCC solutions, because what you're showing here is you're not just doing Zoom rooms, not just doing Microsoft Teams or just doing Cisco. You're covering everybody, and you're offering the ability to do it natively inside the Extron ecosystem.
Absolutely. So we've got Extron give you the ability to mimic the look and feel that people are used to. So if you are a Zoom room customer, that's the look and feel that people are usually looking for on the actual touchscreen. So we can have the soft codec still operates as its solution, but we can interface that to the whole room now.
Right, which also means that you could theoretically switch over to another system, right? It's like Cisco or Teams, and you're imitating the same user interface that they would have in all cases. So instead of launching a room that is only a Zoom room, you have the ability to put in a room that can be on the fly any of the soft codec systems.
Exactly right, and then it's the familiar user. So if you're used to a Touch 10 interface, that should be pretty familiar with you. But we can now add in the room controls. So even when we go onto like the Logitech tab, the same look and feels there, but on the Logitech tab, we just hit a little button in the corner and up comes our control page, allows you to do the room environmental control. So if you've got lights, blinds, all that sort of stuff, without having to have another touchscreen to control the room in addition to the UC, we just added on to their existing touch panel. So it's sort of, it makes it much simpler for the end user.
So let's move on to, speaking of control, let's move on to the control system section of the booth. Extron started out as, back in the early days of control, of just doing configurable control. Absolutely. And now you've gotten into the ability to do full-fledged, completely managed, absolutely, custom controlled systems. Talk about the growth of that segment of the market and Python.
Well, our first generation control was configurable, drag and drop, but it was very much one way, very basic. They introduced the Pro series, which allowed us, the processing was much faster, and we introduced a lot of conditional logic. So you didn't need to understand the programming language, but you could actually still test against conditions. If the room's in combined mode, then turn on both projectors, all that sort of stuff. And that's still driver based, so for somebody that doesn't have the ability to actually write code, you can still download drivers for each of the devices.
So it's kind of a hybrid between a configurable and a program.
It is. Well, it's actually writing the code for you in the background. So from a front end, you drag and drop. When I press this button on my touch panel, I want to check that send the blinds down to apply Python to the Extron control library. So we just add to Python the physical elements of an Ethernet port, the RS-232 ports, the relays and all that sort of stuff, and how we bring in the GUI files and link them. But apart from that, if you want to know how to do a for loop, you just jump on Google and go, how do you do a for loop in Python? And there's 10,000 examples out there. So it makes it very easy for people to develop and do. And you can start doing extra, nice things. If you want to put weather or stocks on the touch panel, you can go off to the web and pull that. Nothing to do with really traditional AV, but because it's standard Python, you can do it.
They're off-the-shelf sort of widgets, I guess you would call them, that you can add on to it, almost like building your own signage display at the same time you're building a controller. Let's talk about, I'm going to come around here and look at the button panels, because we talked about the touchscreens in my interview with Ben earlier. But so here's your touchscreen display here, where you've got the different configurations here, and you've actually got an even better one here where you're showing the Pro series there.
Yeah, so these are just the tabletop mount versions. They're the wall mount versions over here. So we range everything from 5, 7, 10 in the new series, and then 12, 15, and 17 have graphics
In my classroom, we actually have both a touch panel and a button panel. So we have button panels for the professors that come in and they just want to put up a laptop, and then
It's really easy.
and then for people like me who want to stream the class and record the class and switch, I use the touch panel. Let's go back here to the DTP, because this has been a big product line for Extron for years and years and years, the DTP product line. And as you said, even with the AV over IP product, Pro AV over IP product, and the XTP, even this product isn't going away. There's still going to be people that want to simplify signal routing distribution using Cat5.
Yeah, well, DTP grew when it first came out. The original concept was point-to-point, an extender up to 100 meters. And if you wanted matrixing, you went to XTP. But this has grown up to be a whole family. There's DAs, there's matrices from 8x2, 8x4 up to 10x8. And there's the ability with DTP is that it's a really good price point. And the boxes that we have in there have everything in there. We've got scaling, we've got DSP, we've got embedded control processors. So it means that you can have a room in a box easy. So even from university point of view, for their maintenance and backup, if every room's the same with one box, if something happens, they can grab a box and under the.
So I'm going to say Nav, and it's going to be a big product here, 1 gig and 10 gig and everything in between. Sort of like a virtual matrix switcher, AV over IP, or what they're calling Pro AV over IP. You can check it all out at extron.com. And of course, all of our coverage of Integrate 2019 is at raypubs.com. Click on the Integrate link, and you can search all the individual videos we ran around and shot here today in the Extron booth by just typing in Extron in the video search window. Damien, thank you very much, and I'll see you tonight. We're getting ready to leave this afternoon, and we're going to go over to a reception that you're having. So thanks for inviting me.
Thanks, Gary. No worries.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for watching.